Ajay Shukla is one of the country's premier defense analysts. He joins us. Brigadier Gyandoi Bajpai is a defense expert. We also hope to be joined by some of the students who've been affected so they can explain what their concerns are. But Ajay, you heard the politicians now calling, the opposition is calling for a rollback. I listed out the benefits, the demerits of the scheme. Is there a middle ground that can be achieved where you can go ahead with the scheme without inviting this kind of a backlash?
Yes, Rajdeep, I would say there is a middle ground, and it exists in the fact that both the ruling party and the opposition parties have at some stage along this debate admitted and agreed that we need to work on the manpower structure of the military so as to have less people drawing pension, less people drawing salaries, and that leaves enough money for modernization and for the capital expense. This is the government's chosen step to deal with that. So let's first agree that the government has actually taken a step that has been recommended at some time or the other by every party on television debates, on seminars that keep taking place.
So recommended, let me just get that right, recommended having a leaner army or a younger army?
Having a leaner army and having an army with less manpower and more equipment. Okay. Now this step that has been taken, this Agniveers and Agnipath initiative, this squarely addresses the problem of manpower surplus within the army. They are attempting to switch over incrementally from a pension drawing structure where the person serves for 15 years and then draws a pension, probably for the next 30 years. But that structure is now attempting to be replaced by a structure where a Jawan serves for just 4 years and then goes home without a pension. One cannot agree, or when one cannot disagree with the benefits of this, but one absolutely can disagree with the way it will be implemented or can be implemented, whether these people, when they go home at the end of 4 years, are adequately catered for, educated, funded, and made in a sort of position where they can look after their own livelihoods, or will they be just people who have wasted 4 years of their lives, who now are 25, 26 years old and who are still looking for jobs because the government hasn't been able to create any.
So is the solution providing reservations possibly, as the government seems to suggest, for example, Colonel Shukla, in the paramilitary, or indeed providing them some advantage in state government recruitment?
Yes, Rajdeep, you would recall that the military, the army especially, has been agitating for a long time for a lateral sidestepping arrangement where their Jawans who have been retired and who are well-trained, fit and alert people, whether they could be laterally sidestepped into the Central Reserve Police Force, the Border Security Force, the CISF and so on. Right. But remember that everybody from the structures of the Border Security Force and these other forces to the Home Ministry itself, to the Home Minister himself in Parliament, they have said, no, we cannot do this, we cannot absorb the military, for the simple reason that every promotion is a money-making opportunity. There are so many entrenched interests in all these police organizations that they don't want to rock the boat by bringing in army people. So how are you going to get the Home Ministry to change its mind? That's a big problem.
Okay, so that's one of the possibilities, that if you can get certain guarantees in place and written guarantees that can ensure maybe a transition from these 4 years in the army to maybe a paramilitary force or some state government recruitment, that could be a solution. Brigadier Bajpai, do you see a middle ground? You know, we've seen polarized positions from our politicians. Yeah. The opposition is calling for a rollback. It would seem that a rollback at this stage seems not the answer. Do you see, therefore, a possibility of a middle ground?
Yes, Rajdeep, I think it is possible that we can work out some kind of a rollback, not a rollback in the sense, because rollback will portray a very bad picture for the country itself when a government has taken a particular stance. we can increase the age of demitting the office of the Agniveers. That is, now 4 years, we can make it 7 years. That would be a viable thing. The color service, originally in the Indian Army, in the British time, used to be that much.
No,
so
but then you'll have, sir, with due regard, then you'll have...
7 years, there's no need to jump.
No, then you'll have 24-year-olds who are unemployed. Now you'll have 21-year-olds, then you'll have 24-year-olds who are unemployed.
Yes, so that... Yes. So we are talking about that guarantee already. Colonel Shukla has already mentioned that that guarantee by the states, by the government has to be taken, that they will be inducted. Why I'm saying 7 years is because 4 years is too less for us in the army to look at a man becoming part of a combat efficient unit. He is not a combatant hardly. He's seen one field in the 4 years. Only one field. Which field? Where? Has he seen mountains? Has he seen deserts? He's not even, I would say, not even half-baked soldier. So he is like a kind of a brick which doesn't fit in anywhere.
So
in 4 years. So 7 years he will be
telling me 7 years.
If something happens.
You're telling me 7 years is a better period to test a person's ability, his character and his contribution to the army. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay, given that, Colonel Shukla...
Correct. That is how we can also say how much we want to retain.
Okay. Colonel Shukla, you agree with that? That maybe 7 years instead of 4 years?
How much?
You know, 7 years it makes the decision point go a little further into the future, but it will exacerbate the problem, which, as you just said just now, instead of 21 and 22 and 23-year-olds, you're getting now 27 and 28-year-olds into the job market without adequate jobs to sort of satisfy them. So I don't think that this 7-year structure will solve the problem. The problem will only get solved when there is adequate job creation within the country, and there are alternatives for these retirees to actually go into without ruffling feathers, as they would if they went into the CRPF. There must be some way of creating jobs in the country that will cater for these. As long as those people who are going home at the end of 4 years are sort of have some employment, some prospects ahead of them, as long as that happens, I don't think there'll be much of a problem. But that's, the government has not yet shown its ability to create jobs enough for the people.
So the real crisis is actually the job emergency that is confronting the country. That the real reason why this outrage is there is because people are worried that their futures, in a sense, will be compromised at the end of 4 or 7 years. Brigadier Bajpai, any other suggestions that you would give that can make the system better? We've all agreed that you need reform, but you need reform perhaps to be done in a very different way. So any other suggestions to curb the unrest?
That Rajdeep was the thing. Actually, the guarantee is the main thing. Guarantee post, after 7 years, when they leave, that guarantee is in the first step. And then we want 7 years, because 7 years, then we can test him properly and we can decide that this is the 25% we are retaining.
Okay.
Now in 4 years we can't even judge a person properly to whom to retain, whom to jettison. Now we'll be jettisoning 75%, that again is bad. That should be reduced to 50% jettisoning. And then in another 5 years, with the same guarantee that that man will be employed, re-employed in either the CAPF, CRPF or even the TA, which is inside the army.
There are no employment guarantees that can be given at the moment, given the state of the country and the challenges that the country faces. And that really is the critical issue. That is the elephant in the room in a way that has to be addressed. It's all very well to want to reform the army, but you've got to reform the army in the context of the social context in which India operates, where job creation is becoming more and more difficult. For now, Colonel Shukla, Brigadier Bajpai, I appreciate you joining us. Hopefully someone out there is listening and will try and tweak the scheme and make it more flexible in the future. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you, Rajdeep.